Part 2. Selected Poems. The name is rare. The name is realised by the rare and fortunate ones alone. First, they have to triumph over their earthly desires, and then, through their Master's grace, they experience the melody of the name. Paltu says, in Part 1, Kundli 11, "Many speak of the name, but few have found it. Few have found the name, for its essence remains ineffable. He alone attains it who kills all earthly cravings. He vanquishes his ego and becomes oblivious of his body, and tastes the cup of love in the secret cave of the firmament. Hunger and thirst he forgets, for his mind has drunk deep of the word. The 5 enemies, lust, attachment, egotism, anger and greed, and the driving tendencies of the mind have left him. Detached from the lure of the world, he speaks a language soft and sweet. One has to experience that melody to know it. How can I put it into words? Through the grace of the Master, O Paltu, I live carefree in the world. Many speak of the name, but few have found it." Footnote: the driving tendencies of the mind, the 25 prakriti, the tendencies of mind and matter, manifestations of the 5 tattva, elements. End footnote. The name is immaculate. This world, with all that it contains, is illusory. Since all relationships here are transitory, they are unworthy of our attachment. In this changing world, there is only one thing that is everlasting and worthy of human pursuit. It is the name of the Lord. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 18, "Caparisoned horses and elephants are as dust and ashes. As dust is the man who admires them and hears their praises sung. As dust are those who sing their praises. As ashes are the kingdoms and treasures of the world. Worthless are wife and son, and worthless those who cling to them, hanging on them their hopes. Worthless are palaces magnificent, and worthless their lofty towers. Worthless are orchards and pleasure gardens that delight the heart. Worthless is silver jewellery. Worthless the tobacco pipe and its pleasures. Worthless are fine clothes, and worthless are shawls embroidered in gold. Worthless is the necklace of pearls, and worthless the drumbeats of royalty. Worthless is all kinship, by marriage acquired. Hold fast, O Paltu, to the name of the Lord, for that alone is the immaculate and everlasting treasure. Caparisoned horses and elephants are as dust and ashes. As dust is the man who admires them and hears their praises sung." The Word made flesh. Saints are imbued with the name of the Lord. The Master alone can give salvation to others by teaching them the practice of the name. All other methods, such as austerities, penances, fasts and pilgrimages, are worthless. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 14, "The name of the Lord wells up in the saints, and the saints are steeped in his name. The saints are steeped in his name, and they alone can bestow the gift of the name. Adepts in the practice of the name, they impart the way to unite with it. Austerities, penances, fasts and pilgrimages one may endlessly perform, but without the help of the saint, one never can find entrance to the name. Try as one may in a million ways, one will still wander endlessly. The chamber of the name will not open until one comes to the door of the saint. The name lies, O Paltu, beyond the reach of pranas. It is at the beginning. It is at the end. The name of the Lord wells up in the saints, and the saints are steeped in his name. Footnote: Pranas, life force or life breath. The yoga of pranayam, is taught as part of hatha yoga for obtaining salvation. End footnote. False prophets. True saints are not easy to find. False ones abound. In fact, in this world of falsehood, there are fewer disciples than there are false gurus. Paltu points out the folly of looking upon every pretender to holiness as a master. However, without a true master, one cannot attain eternal bliss. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 9, "If every householder were a king, whom should we call a subject? And if everyone in the house were a ruler, who would dispense justice? If everyone gave himself the airs of a lord, who would work to load the carts? And if every donkey claimed to plough a field, who would maintain bullocks? If an ass could gallop, who would care for an Arabian horse? If a dip in a well could bring salvation, who would go to the Ganges? If a touch of glass could transform iron into gold, who would search for the philosopher's stone? If everyone became a man of wealth, who then would beg for alms? O Paltu, to find a saint is rare, though pretenders to sainthood are many. If every householder were a king, whom then should we call a subject?" A boat without the boatman. The traveller has the boat, but there is no boatman to steer it. We have been given life as a human being, but we cannot go across the ocean of phenomena and achieve access to the shore of everlasting bliss without the expert steering of the master, the boatman. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 6, "The boat is there, but the boatman is missing. How will the traveller go across? And how will the traveller go across when faith in the boatman is lacking? How will he reach the beloved across the ocean when he is reluctant to renounce worldly pleasures? Neither is he pure of mind, nor does he live a virtuous life. He does not listen to the Master's wise words, and without love in the heart, his speech and actions are at odds. His boat does not stop wobbling, because he does not listen to the boatman. The fool, bereft of wisdom, brings in his own cleverness. He does not attend, O Paltu, to the Master's path of the melody within. The boat is there, but the boatman is missing. How will the traveller go across?" The true yogi. In this poem, Paltu has defined the saint as a superlative yogi. The true yogi is impervious to physical discomforts. Love personified, he has attained the highest spiritual experience and merged into the Supreme Being. Paltu says, in Part 3, Shabad 129, "Behold, here is a wandering yogi who knows no care. In ecstasy divine he journeys within and ascends from mansion to mansion. He eats no food, he cares not for comfort, he seeks no alms. He speaks not, he wavers not, yet he dances though no tune is called. In the region of Sukmana, nectar falls, which he receives as he goes through Bunknal. Whenever you look at him, he is love intoxicated. He repeats the ever-ringing, nameless name. In the secret cave of the inner sky, he blows his horn and is ever awake in the land of vigil. Seated at the confluence of Tribeni, his heart overflows with love for the Lord. In the palace of Sun, he takes his seat with a vow of silence, but he plays the melody eternal. He ascends to Turiya. His words are pitched in a note of ecstasy, and he sings them loud and long. He becomes the melody and merges therein. All gates of the inner regions are open to him. Behold, O Paltu, the wonder. The ocean is contained in the drop. Who can separate one from the other? Footnote. Sukmana, the inner passage or route by which the soul current travels to higher regions. Bunknal, passage, crooked tunnel between the first and second inner regions. Tribani, confluence of 3 rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, refers here to the confluence of 3 inner currents of the soul. Sun, subdivision of the 3rd inner region beyond the physical. Turiya, state of superconsciousness. End footnote. Saints and the Lord. In this Kundli, Paltu says that saints are the Lord in human form. Even to consider them as separate will lead to great suffering, warns Paltu. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 32, he who considers the Lord and his saint as two will suffer the pains of hell. He will suffer the pains of hell, for there is no difference between them. As fragrance lies within the flower, even so the Lord resides within his devotee. God himself has taken on the garb of the saint. He shows the way of devotion and puts the world on the path. While others incarnate from within the limits of Brahm, the saint descends from the Absolute, transcending mind and Maya. Says Paltu, Hari revealed his truth to Narad. He who considers the Lord and his saint as two will suffer the pains of hell. Footnote. Narad, a famous sage of Hindu mythology known for his intense devotion to Vishnu, whom Paltu refers to here as Hari, the Lord. End footnote. The decree of saints. Saints are the true masters of the universe. Theirs is the power, the kingdom, and the glory of God. Having united with God, their command is one with the supreme command. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 25, the saints are close to the Lord. What they decree, that alone happens. What they decree, that alone happens, for the Lord is at their command. He does what the saints ask, and does not exceed their wishes. In the kingdom of the Lord, the saints alone hold the reins of government. All the 330 million gods stand in fear and awe of them. They can turn a mustard seed into a mountain, or shrink a mountain to a mustard seed. In the Lord's mansion, the saints alone have audience and share the divine dispensation. In the house of the Lord, O Paltu, there is no other doer. The saints are close to the Lord. What they decree, that alone happens. Footnote. 330 million gods. This is the number of gods according to Hindu mythology. End footnote. Saints transcend duality. Saints transcend duality. The pairs of opposites, such as gain and loss, joy and sorrow, love and hatred, life and death, fail to disturb them. They talk ill of no one. They love the Lord in all his creation. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 35, saints bear malice to none, and are attached to none. To none are they attached. Friend and foe are alike to them. They have renounced hostility and see the same divine spark in everyone. Be it glass or gold, to them both are alike, for they desire neither. Victory and defeat are meaningless to them, for they are stricken by love for the Lord. They make no distinction between pain and pleasure, or prosperity and adversity. Brahmin and Shudra, high and low, all are alike to them, for in all they see the image of God. They don't cling to life, nor do they fear death. Friend and foe, O Paltu, are the same to them, for they are beyond attachment and hostility. Saints bear malice to none, and are attached to none. The equanimity of saints. Saints live in a state of contentment. Their equanimity is never disturbed. Absorbed in inward bliss, they live detached from the world, unaffected either by luxuries or privations, happy in the will of the Lord. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 30, "At times, saints face starvation. At times they know great wealth. At times they know great wealth, yet riches nor poverty affect them, for full or empty, they have always the treasure of contentment. Sometimes their bed is flowers, and they ride on elephants draped in gold. Sometimes they sleep on bare ground, and walk the paths with bare feet. Sometimes they wear gold-embroidered garments, sometimes coarse deerskin. Sometimes, all but naked, they warm themselves before a fire. O Paltu, both states are alike to them. They do not curse their fate. At times saints face starvation, at times they know great wealth." Rare are earnest seekers. Those who indulge in philosophical argument and endless discussions of spirituality, says Paltu, are not serious customers for the wares the saints offer. Clinging to orthodox beliefs and fearing to be different, they are not ready to pay the price even of glass beads, let alone of diamonds. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 128, "You are looking for the diamond, and yet your pockets are empty. Your pockets are empty, and yet you want the jeweller to display his wares. You indulge in idle chatter and waste the jeweller's precious time. Long and futile is your speech, piling up a heap of babble. You keep pouring out a stream of words without a penny in your pocket. Recognising your unworthiness, the jeweller sends you away empty-handed. He has packed up his wares and put off the customer. You cling, O Paltu, to public opinion, and still you pose as a seeker of the name. You are looking for the diamond, and yet your pockets are empty." Spiritual wealth. The Master comes to bestow upon us the infinite gift of the name. Seeing a philanthropist, the beggars of the city throng to him, begging for loaves of bread and transient worldly gifts. Only a rare few are worthy of the priceless gift he has come to offer out of his grace. 1 in a million is willing to pay the price for the spiritual treasure. Developing a taste for the diamond means coming to enjoy spiritual experience. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 87, "The Master is always ready to bestow his grace, but no one is ready to receive it. No one is ready to receive it, for none are prepared to offer their head on a platter. Only one who is willing to lay down his life can receive it. The path that leads to the mansion of the Lord is hard. This mortal body trembles at the thought of it. How will a lover of meat develop a taste for the diamond? How can a sick man reclaim his health if he will not listen to his physician? How can the stiff bamboo absorb the fragrance of the sandalwood? What can the philosopher's stone do when the iron itself is debased, O Paltu? The Master is always ready to bestow his grace, but no one is ready to receive it." Avoid the fool. If a fool pretends to want spiritual wisdom, it is better to avoid him, says Paltu. At heart he is totally unreceptive, so one should refrain from wasting time on such a person. Pilate asked Christ, "What is truth?" But it was only a rhetorical question. Such people are not worthy of the wealth of the name. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 129, Don't speak of the spiritual path to a fool. It will only do you harm. It will do you harm, for the path is too subtle for him to know it. So complete is the fool's blindness that no treatment can restore his sight. Even if Brahma were to descend to the earth, he would fail to enlighten him. Even if you feed it with nectar, the serpent will never get rid of its poison. Divine knowledge cannot enter the fool's mind. It is futile to try. As the spear fails to penetrate a stone and rebounds after striking it, so, says Paltu, don't speak of spiritual matters to one who lacks receptivity. Don't talk of the spiritual path to a fool. It will only do you harm. The importance of effort. Thirst cannot be quenched by merely looking at water. One has to drink it in order to feel satisfied. In this kundli, Paltu brings out the importance of effort and personal experience. One has to put in hard work to gain mystic experience, and that in turn leads to unshakable faith. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 233, "The ocean of nectar is full, but merely looking at it will not quench your thirst. Merely looking at it will not quench your thirst, and who can describe the taste without drinking? A mere glance at the kalp tree will not appease your hunger. You have to eat the fruit of this wish-giving tree. Looking at others' wealth will not remove your poverty. Only after his sight has been restored will the blind man know the physician's skill. Iron will sing the praises of the philosopher's stone after it has been turned into gold. Dead timber will not see any virtue in the sandalwood tree, whose fragrance it cannot imbibe. Your greatness, Paltu, cannot realise, O Master, without following your orders. The ocean of nectar is full, but merely looking at it will not quench your thirst." Worldly and divine love. Only someone who has been pierced by the Master's love can understand the pain of longing and the intensity of that one-pointed devotion. It is pointless to even talk of it to fools, says Paltu, because their love for the world gives them a heart of stone that cannot be pierced by the arrow of divine love. Paltu says, in Part 1, Kundli 67, "Only a person pierced with the arrow of love knows what pain is. He alone knows what pain is. What use to explain it to the fool? One who does not understand it, it is better to keep silent before him. Though one may explain it 1,000,000 times, the fool will never understand. Of what use is it to one who refuses to leave his illusions? Such a one, helplessly in love with the world, will never know what the love of the Lord is. His face is turned away from the saints, towards the rubbish of the world. The barb of love, O Paltu, will never pierce a heart of stone. Only a person pierced with the arrow of love knows what pain is." Denunciation of polytheism. In this kundli, Paltu uses a powerful image to emphasise the necessity of being one-pointed in one's love and devotion on the spiritual path. The disciple who seeks spiritual solace, guidance and enlightenment will gain no spiritual benefit, says Paltu, by turning away from the Lord within and running after outward forms and images. In Paltu's symbolism, the Lord is the husband and the soul is the wife. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 211, "The woman who runs after many lovers becomes a barren harlot. The harlot is barren, for she plays escort to countless men. Not satisfied with one lover, she searches for others from door to door. Were she to remain loyal to her husband and shun other men, her womb would soon become fruitful. She would become exalted like the rainbird who drinks only swanty raindrops. one who relinquishes the immanent Lord and worships gods, is like a woman who forsakes her husband and goes chasing after other men. Such a one sinks deep, like the whore, into a swamp of iniquity. Barren is the woman, says Paltu, who plays harlot to many lovers. Footnote: It is believed that the rainbird drinks no water other than the raindrops that fall during the period when the moon is in Swanti, the constellation of Arcturus, forming the 15th lunar asterism. End footnote. Animal sacrifice. The practice of animal sacrifice to please certain deities still persists in some parts of India, and in many parts of the world it is common for people to eat ritually or otherwise slaughtered animals in celebration of annual religious festivals. In this kundli, Paltu denounces the sacrifice of animal life in strong terms, pointing out that it is the Lord himself within every creature who is being strangled. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 216, "The husband is strangled for the sake of the lover. For the sake of the lover, rams and goats are sacrificed. For the worship of idols, gods and goddesses, throats are slit. From earth and clay, people make idols. They worship what is dead. Killing living beings, they sacrifice them for prestige. God lives in everything. There is nothing other than he. If this is what one does, what good can come of it? O Paltu, when creatures are slaughtered in sacrifice at the altar of deities, the husband is strangled for the sake of the lover." The worn-out garment. Paltu here compares the human body to a garment. With the onset of old age, the garment becomes worn out. Human life is transient, and yet we cling to it as if it is going to last forever. Its sole purpose is to enable us to get release from the cycle of birth and death through meditation. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 46, "Old and worn out is your garment. It may at any moment fall apart. It may fall apart at any moment, yet you cling to it with bonds of desire. Childhood is gone, youth vanished, and now old age is passing. Still you are ignorant of meditation. Shrivelled with age are you from top to toe, still you take no warning. You are engaged in hoarding money ceaselessly, cutting the throats of others. How shall it be with you now, friend? The angel of death has come, and his demands are growing insistent. Nothing in the world will help you when the appointed hour arrives. O Paltu, on top of all this, you entangle yourself in your illusions and attachments. Old and worn out is your garment, and it may at any moment fall apart." The sinking ship. The human body is like a ship. The name of the Lord is its captain, who alone can steer the ship across the ocean of phenomena to the haven of safety. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 55, "The ship of your life is sinking. Invoke now the name of the Lord. Invoke now the name of the Lord, for your life is fast slipping from your hands. Your boat is sinking midstream, yet you are clutching your measly possessions. Only the foolish waste their lives on a treasure they will lose. You are taking your last breath. Even now you are bound by your attachments. Though the breath is leaving your body, even now you don't remember his name. The human frame is a priceless treasure, O Paltu. You have traded it for empty shells. The ship of your life is sinking. Invoke now the name of the Lord." The colony of the blind. When the enlightened come to this world, very few believe them. It is difficult for us to see beyond religion with its rituals and ceremonies, and thus we remain in darkness. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 194, "In the colony of the blind, a man with sight arrived. A man with sight arrived, and all the blind came out to greet him. The fools collected around him and cried, 'Put out your eyes, O stranger, and live as we do.' Then they deliberated and declared him blind, as they themselves were. Where millions are blind, what can one person with sight do? No one listens to him, and he feels helpless. O Paltu, nobody considers what he has to say. In the colony of the blind, a man with sight arrived." God is within. God is within, but man is searching for him outside. In this poem, Paltu tries to make us understand that God resides within the human body. But even though he is so near, we cannot meet him without sustained effort. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 192, "To whom do you give water when the traveller has already died of thirst? The traveller has died of thirst with the rope and the bucket beside him. Sitting on the wall of the well, how could he draw water without effort? Food is before him on the platter, but the hungry man does not eat. 'I am dying of hunger,' he yells. Who is going to put food into his mouth? A lamp with wick and oil is before him, but he doesn't bother to light it. The husband is sleeping by her side, but the wife goes in search of him in distant lands. The path is straight, O Paltu, but the traveller stumbles at every step. To whom do you give water when the traveller has already died of thirst?" The company of saints. The mind is our chief enemy. It has the might of an elephant, and few have courage enough to face it. But he who cultivates the company of a saint, whom Paltu compares to a lion, has nothing to fear. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 143, "The elephant will die without being killed if you cultivate the company of a lion. Cultivate the company of a lion and become like him. He eats the prey that he himself has killed and does not touch the carcasses of others. So has the saint conquered all appetites and desires. He looks upon miraculous powers and the treasures of paradise as garbage. Friend and foe are alike to him. Alike to him are heat and cold. He cares not for praise or blame and carves out his own path. The false cannot stand before him, O Paltu, until they have been dyed in the colour divine. The elephant will die without being killed if you cultivate the company of a lion." The malady. In this beautiful kundli, Paltu employs the simile of a girl in love who discloses her secret to her mother. He describes the state of intense love and also gives the remedy for it. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 63, "I have lost my heart. O mother, I feel so restless. I feel so restless without a glimpse of my Lord. My life I shall lay as an offering at the feet of my Lord. This malady of mine will cost me my life for sure. There is only one remedy. If I could be united with my beloved. Oh, I have been stricken by the deepest love, and the dart of his name has pierced my heart. Unconscious, I fell down, caring nothing for people's taunts. Who can treat me, O Paltu, except my master, the physician? I have lost my heart. O mother, I am so restless." Springtime. Youth is the springtime of love. It is also the best period for spiritual devotion. This period should not be wasted in the enjoyment of sense pleasures. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 41, "How is it, O foolish one, that you sleep on while the springtime of life is fleeting? The springtime of life is fleeting, yet your beloved has not come home. The days of your life are lost, wasted in utter futility without the company of your beloved. Drunk with the wine of beauty and youth, my dear, you are deluded by pride and vanity. Your beloved is not happy with you. You have not even sent a letter. You are restless, yet make no attempt to reconcile with him. Why are you dressing with such immaculate care? That bed of flowers, for whom have you prepared it? Play the game of love while the season is green, says Paltu. When the spring is gone, it will be too late for remorse. How is it, O foolish one, that you sleep on while the springtime of life is fleeting?" Surrender to the Master. The Master's love for the disciple who surrenders himself completely is immense. He overlooks all his faults, provided the surrender is genuine. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 156, "Many are the tales people tell about me. My Master turns a deaf ear to them all. He has turned a deaf ear to such tales ever since I surrendered to him. Ignoring my faults and sins, he has made me his own. I commit acts of injustice, I'm swayed by lust and anger. But however wicked the son may be, he is still dear to his father. I am lustful, greedy and depraved, dishonest and low-bred, but because of my surrender, he has raised me up high. Such indeed, O Paltu, is his gracious treatment of me. Many are the tales people tell about me. My Master turns a deaf ear to them all." Times primordial. In this poem, Paltu speaks of a time before the universe was created. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 172, "There was no sun, no moon, no air, no water. Neither day nor night existed. Neither day nor night existed, nor indeed had the universe come into being. Brahma, Vishnu and Shiv had not yet manifested themselves. The primal flame, paradise, the void, and the mountain Kailash had not yet assumed their forms. The great mythical serpent and tortoise were not, nor were the earth, the sky, and all the dimensions. I speak of the age, O Paltu, when the holy Vedas had not yet taken shape. There was no sun, no moon, no air, no water. Neither day nor night existed." The Forgotten Promise. According to saints, the unborn child suffers great pain. It promises to give much of its time to the Lord's devotion if it is rescued from that hell. But as soon as it emerges from the mother's womb, it forgets its promise. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 131, "Ignore public opinion, give up pride of position, and work out your salvation. Work out your salvation, and think of that day when you made a solemn pledge to engage in devotion. Now you have gone back on your word. You made a solemn promise to worship the Lord, and only then you were given the human body. I remember well that solemn pledge of yours, made in your mother's womb. You were hanging upside down in that hell of blood and water, and you were released from that agony by invoking the name of the Lord. Now that you have become a complete stranger to your Redeemer, how can you hope to enjoy a moment of comfort? Accept it, O Paltu, if the world laughs at you. But do not let the Lord scorn you for breaking your word. Ignore public opinion, give up pride of position, and work out your salvation. As one sows. The Bible says, "Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them." The idea of judging a man by his actions is common to all religions. Paltu points out that karma is binding only on the doer. The sins of the fathers are not visited upon the children. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 152, "Each one is judged by his own actions and bears their fruit. The sins of the father are visited upon the father, and of the son upon the son. The wife reaps as she has sown, the husband gathers as he has done. Good or bad, your deeds alone will go with you. Each one is ferried across on the strength of his own devotion, and will otherwise be friendless and alone. Ponder deeply, and you will realize that only your deeds will accompany you, nothing else. To each one his own reward, to each the fruit of his own actions, and nothing more. Each one is weighed against his own actions, O Paltu." A true devotee. In India, the role of wife and mother is frequently idealized. She is loyal and devoted to her husband. Though her love for him is all-absorbing, she fulfills her duties to the other members of the household. Similarly, for the perfect devotee, love for the master comes first, while as a matter of duty, she honours all worldly obligations. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 107, "The mark of the faithful wife is to be kind and affectionate to all. Kind and affectionate to all, she serves with humility the entire household. She is obedient to her parents-in-law and respectful to her husband's brothers and sisters. Lovingly, she prepares food for them, and she makes their beds with care. Then, when they are all asleep, she steals to her husband's chamber. All others are kept pleased, though her attention is always with him. Such indeed must be the way of the disciple in order to win life's game. She is sweet and good to all, O Paltu, but completely absorbed in the Lord. The mark of the faithful wife is to be kind and affectionate to all." Love means absorption. The basis of ordinary worldly love is intense absorption. The lover, madly in love, does not care for public opinion, nor does he weigh his love by the scale of intellect. The spiritual seeker has a lot to learn from the worldly lover. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 92, "The worldly lover is ever engrossed in the charms of his beloved. Ever engrossed in her charms, he thinks day and night of her alone. Body, mind, and wealth he sacrifices for her, and throws to the winds all honour and sense of shame. A million warnings and admonitions are brushed aside. He cannot live without her. For him she is all in all. He keeps repeating her name and glorifies her alone. Not a moment does he forget her, even as a miser clings to his money. Bestow upon Paltu, O Lord, such intense love, like the worldly lover, ever engrossed in the charms of his beloved." The immanence of the Lord. Paltu asserts that in reality nothing exists except the Lord. All that we see before us is simply a manifold appearance of the one power that we call God. There is no question of duality or multiplicity. With Paltu, monism is not a philosophical doctrine, but a fact of experience. The mystics actually see with their inner eye the immanence of the Supreme Being. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 176, "The wave emanates from the ocean and merges back into it. It merges into the ocean, and just so does Maya return into hurry. The Vedas and Puranas are all in tangles. How can they enlighten the seeker of truth? As fragrance is concealed in the flower and fire in wood, as ghee is hidden in milk and water in the pitcher, so is the formless manifest in the creation, for none else exists. One who speaks of them as two commits a grievous error. O Paltu, there is no difference between the Lord and his manifestation. The wave emanates from the ocean and merges back into it. The slanderer. People have the tendency to denounce others and find fault with their actions. They malign them behind their backs. In this kundli, Paltu makes his point with humour and irony. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 220, "May the slanderer live for ages. Through him my task is accomplished. My task is accomplished by a servant who charges not a penny. Arming himself with stories, he goes from place to place and enlightens the whole world about me. Always hard at work, he thinks of me continually. Fondly he hurls abuse at me day and night. He has disillusioned the world about me and given me strength. The slanderer is indeed my benefactor, for he brings me closer to my Lord." On hearing that the slanderer died, Paltu burst into tears. "May the slanderer live for ages. Through him my task is accomplished." Worry consumes all. In this world, nobody is happy. Anxiety gnaws at the heart of all. Paltu says that worry is a universal malady. However, saints are firmly embedded in the Word, and they attain such a state of equanimity that the tribulations of mind and maya cannot affect them. Syed and Sheikh refer to different levels of Muslim society. Jangam, Sihora, Naga and Udasi are all different classes and categories of Hindu holy men. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 231, "Behold how the flame of worry consumes the whole world. It consumes the whole world, affecting ruler and ruled alike. From it, the kings and their nobles burn within, and likewise Syed and Sheikh, likewise men, gods and sages, likewise yogi, ascetic and recluse. And the same is the case with the Jangam, Sihora, Naga and Udasi. The erudite, the pedantic and the clever are all enveloped in its fire. The man in penance doubly burns, worry leaves no one untouched. O Paltu, saints alone escape. Their mainstay is the Word. Behold how the flame of worry consumes the whole world." Public opinion. Public opinion is a great obstacle in the way of spiritual realization, and it requires courage of a very high order to rise above it. In this kundli, Paltu exhorts us to ignore public opinion, to rise above considerations of caste and creed, and pay little heed to what others may say about us. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 133, "Don't care what people say. Shed all sense of shame and ridicule. Shed all sense of shame and ridicule. Renounce false honour and prestige. Leave pride of caste, profession and family, and take refuge in the Master. Let the world go. Let it laugh and mock and deride. Be conscious of the Lord's presence in all, be they Muslim or Hindu. Throw off your veil and dance with abandon to the beat of the drum of knowledge. Cut Yama's noose from round your neck and wash all doubts away. Enter into wedlock with the Lord, O Paltu, and let happen what may. Don't care what people say. Shed all sense of shame and ridicule." Footnote: Yama, the Lord of Death. End footnote. Satsang corrupts all. This poem presents a striking example of Paltu's poetic irony as he highlights the attitude of worldly people towards devotees of the Lord. Ignorant of the inestimable value of spiritual realization, they fail to see that contact with a saint can only enrich one. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 85, "Whoever comes to satsang is spoiled. He is spoiled even as oil is spoiled by the fragrance of flowers. He has found the company of the wise and lost his ignorance. Touching the philosopher's stone, iron loses its value. It ceases to be iron, instead it becomes gold. The river loses its identity by merging into the ocean. By absorbing the scent of sandalwood, the tree loses its own smell. Alas, Paltu is transformed from a crow into a swan, and the crows grieve because they have lost him. Whoever comes to satsang is spoiled." Withdrawal from the world. In this beautiful kundli, Paltu pleads that the way to salvation is not through mere renunciation. Our hold of the world should loosen gradually, in line with our spiritual progress. It is only when we attain perfect spiritual realization that we can turn our face completely from the world. However, Paltu cautions us to walk warily and not to mistake the shadow for the substance. In other words, he exhorts us to be in the world, but not of the world. Lotus-like, we should live in this world and rise above its turbid waters so as to escape being marked by its dirt. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 137, "Walk not away from action until your object is attained. Until your object is attained, do not ignore the importance of this world. If you break from the world and gain nothing spiritual, lost to this world without a foothold in the other, neither here nor there are you, only dangling in between. Let withdrawal from action match your spiritual gain. Turn your face away from the world when you have gathered spiritual wealth. Walk warily, O Paltu, so you're not sullied by the world. Walk not away from action till your object is attained." Maya and her wiles. Maya is generally translated as illusion, the illusion that makes the world of sense look real. Maya is also personified as the temptress who does Karl's work through the passion of lust, which few can resist. To those who rise to the worlds of the spirit within, Maya manifests herself as a celestial nymph, excites their lust, and robs them of the spiritual merit they have gained through ages of penance. But in the home of saints, Maya is a servile drudge. She dare not work her nefarious designs in their court. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 183, "Beware of Maya, the deceiving thug, who has swindled the whole world. None is clever enough to hoodwink her. None is clever enough to hoodwink her, for in her hand she holds the 3 guna, the dread weapon of action, inaction, and all between. She pulls men, sages, and gods down from lofty heights. She makes them the subject of mockery. She snared Indra, the ruler of paradise. She duped Durbasa, the ancient sage. She fooled Narad, a prey to her seductions. Lord Shiv, with trident in hand, could not resist her. Shringi, the valiant rishi, was defrauded in the thick forest. O Paltu, true devotees of the Lord alone outwit her. Beware of Maya, the deceiving thug, who has swindled the whole world. None is clever enough to hoodwink her." Footnote: Guna, the attributes or qualities of action, inertia, and balance. Indra attained his position by centuries of yogic practice. Once he fell prey to the charms of a woman named Ahilya, the wife of a sage named Gautam. He assumed her husband's form, visited her, and was cursed by Gautam. The sage Durbasa, Durvasus did great penance but was generally deprived of his spiritual merit because of his readiness to lay a curse on people whenever he felt annoyed. Narad, regarded as the most exalted among the devotees of Vishnu, Narad once became enthralled by the beauty of a princess and wanted to wed her. He prayed to Lord Vishnu to lend him his own beauty so that the maiden might select him in the Swayamvar, a ceremony in which a woman selects a husband of her own choice. But Vishnu gave him the face of a monkey to save him from lust. Narad laid a curse on Vishnu, who then had to incarnate and suffer, as Ram, the pangs of separation from his wife Sita, the incarnation of his spouse Lakshmi, until the monkeys came to his rescue. Trident, three-pronged fork, Lord Shiv's holy symbol and weapon. The ancient sage Shringi inflicted such terrible austerities on himself that he was reduced to a skeleton. He ate no food, but lived by licking the bark of trees. Dashrath the king was childless, and sent a crafty woman from his court to persuade Shringi to come and perform a yagna ceremony that would give sons and heirs to the aging monarch. The woman coated the bark of the trees lightly with honey and spices, and thus succeeded, carefully and laboriously in tempting the sage, whose lust was awakened. He became a father, and was later dragged to the court of the ruling sovereign to do his bidding. End footnote. Saints earn their own living. True saints will not stretch out their hands before others, seeking alms. The world is full of holy men living on the charity of others. They impress others by their pseudo-spirituality, but such people are not saints. One of the most important requirements of a true saint is that he earns his own living. Those who live on the earnings of others are discarded by Paltu as pretenders to holiness. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 240, "A swan does not peck at shellfish, nor does the lion eat grass. The lion does not eat grass. He would rather kill and eat an elephant. If something is already dead, he won't go near it. It is a tradition with his kind not to eat such flesh. They would die rather than eat, so as not to be corrupted. For saints, meditation is the crowning glory. Whatever they undertake, they never give up. If they did anything contrary, it would bring disgrace to them." Says Paltu, saints never stretch out their hands before others, seeking alms. A swan does not peck at shellfish, nor does the lion eat grass. The saints care not for fame. It is difficult to shake off pride, because even when humility is attained, that humility often breeds a subtle type of ego. Being humble, one may be proud of one's humility. All of us crave praise. Pride ruined the angels, says Emerson. The true devotees of God, however, are exceptions. They have no pride. As the humility of saints is born out of universal or divine love, and not out of any special discipline, it has no tinge of pride. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 165, "To earn praise and honour, the whole world toils. The whole world toils. The yogi, ascetic and hermit all toil. They too hunger for praise who have made their dwellings in caves. Even highly accomplished yogis resort to miracles for fame and respect. The priest delivers his sermon so that people might touch his feet. The prince, the pauper, and the fakir who wanders with ash smeared on his body all possess a strong desire to become the focus of everyone's gaze. O Paltu, only the devotees of the Lord transcend this desire for fame. To earn praise and honour, the whole world toils." Death. All that lives must die. In this Kundli, Paltu brings out the inevitability of death. Monarchs and rulers, prophets and apostles, even gods and goddesses have to obey the summons of death. The only way to triumph over death is to learn to die while living. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 117, Ram, Krishna, Parshuram all recognize the inevitability and power of death. They had to submit because death spares no one. Kal, the Lord of Death, holds sway over the 24 incarnations. Gods and men, patriarchs and apostles, all have to obey death's summons when the appointed hour comes. The sun and the moon, the gods and the great ones, earth, air, water and sky, all are subject to change and must one day die. The prince and the pauper, the brave warrior, the beggar, and the invincible hero, the sati and the monk, all die. Even fire which consumes all is itself consumed in the end. O Paltu, since death is certain, it is better to die before death. Ram, Krishna, and Parshuram all recognize the inevitability and power of death. Footnote: Ram, incarnation of Lord Vishnu, the king of Ayodhya, hero of the epic Ramayana. Krishna, incarnation of Lord Vishnu. He brought victory to the Pandavas in the Battle of Mahabharat. His dialogue with Prince Arjun is recorded in the Bhagavad Gita, Song Celestial. Parshuram, the sixth incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Sati, a tradition of earlier times in India when a wife would end her life on the funeral pyre of her husband rather than live on without him. End footnote. Vanity and pride. Paltu compares a vain person to a date palm, which grows in height but gives no shade. A rich man is no better than a beggar, unless he is kind and benevolent. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 168, continuing to grow tall, he has become like the date palm. Like the date palm, he has grown tall, but offers no shade to the wayfarer. Even when it bears fruit, how is one to reach it? Prickly are the leaves, one touch and they make the hands bleed. The tree is useless except for the trunk, which serves as a beam for the well. Although he has acquired great riches, without the quality of mercy he is a beggar. He has gained lofty stature, but without devotion he is the lowest of the low. O Paltu, glory lies in the qualities of mercy and devotion. Continuing to grow tall, he has become like the date palm. The Living Master. Most people draw a distinction between God and his saints. Paltu, in the following poem, emphasizes the point that there is no difference between the perfect master and God. He says that a person who serves the living master and makes no distinction between him and God is truly blessed. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 116, O Paltu, the head that knows not how to bow should better have been a pumpkin. It should have been a pumpkin, or else it should have bowed before the saint. Offer your all to the saint, and serve him with humility. Consider your life blessed the day you met the saint. One look at him will feast your eyes and bring you tranquillity, peace and poise. Know there is no difference between the Lord and the saint. Serve him with your heart and soul. Remember that the saint encompasses Brahma, Vishnu and Shiv. Glory to the head that bows in the august presence of the saint. O Paltu, the head that knows not how to bow should better have been a pumpkin. Saints. Blessed indeed are saints who leave their abode of bliss and descend to this coarse plane, assuming the human form to give salvation to others. Their love flows to all alike, to the virtuous and the wicked. In this rector, Paltu glorifies the saints who bring salvation to the world. In fact, he finds no difference between the saints and the Lord. Paltu says in Part 2, Rector 17. Know that the saint and the Lord are one. There exists not the least difference between them. As redness is concealed in the leaves of henna, as butter is hidden in the milk it comes from, as fragrance lives in the flower, and fire in firewood, so does the Lord reside within the saint. Says Paltu, know this to be true, that the Lord abides in the saint, and the saint in the Lord. The name. In this rector, Paltu brings out the importance of practicing the name during the short span of one's life. Human life is a rare privilege and an opportunity to attain God realization before death. One should take full advantage of it. Paltu says in Part 2, Rector 26, Forget not the name of the Lord, O friend, or you will sink in the ocean of sorrow. Day and night you are lost in lust and anger. You plough the barren soil of attachment and greed. A man of property you become, amassing goods and wealth. Then death, the leveller, wipes out all you possess. Why are you making, says Paltu, such careful plans? Sudden when it comes will be the blow of death. Satsang. Satsang literally means the company of the true. Since perfect masters are truth personified, satsang means the company of a master. In this rector, Paltu emphasizes that satsang is the first link of the chain which leads to ultimate salvation. Paltu says in Part 2, Rector 21, Without satsang, the name of the Lord remains unknown. Without his name, attachment to the world does not depart. Until attachment goes, there's no release from bondage. Without release, longing for the Lord does not awaken. If longing is absent, devotion will not blossom. Without devotion, love will not be kindled in the heart. Without love, there is no name, and without the name, no saint. Seek the gift of satsang, therefore, O Paltu, from the Lord. Meritorious deeds. Meritorious deeds and charitable acts by themselves cannot bring one salvation. Saints are in favour of good deeds, but these must be performed in a detached manner. One would otherwise have to take birth again to enjoy their fruit. This is the law of karma. Without detachment, our actions serve as chains of gold, binding us to the level of suffering. The name alone can give us release from the cycle of transmigration, the wheel of 84. Paltu says in Part 2, Rector 45, He who acts virtuously reaps the fruit in heaven, but once he has enjoyed the fruit, he comes back to an earthly existence. Worldly actions keep him enslaved in the world of karma. He does not escape the cycle of birth and death, and remains trapped in the wheel of 84. How can one break loose from this merry-go-round? Says Paltu, if you want to break free from this prison house, go beyond the realm of mind and maya. The true warrior. According to Paltu, the man of true valour is one who has vanquished the 5 passions through love and devotion for the Master and the Lord. Paltu says in Part 2, Rector 35, With devotion as your shield, rule your body. Use wisdom as the weapon to fight your war. This is the way of the man of true valour. With forgiveness as his scimitar, he sways the world. He conquers humanity with the sword of love. He routs the forces of attachment, pride and greed. He is victorious over the foes of lust and anger. He is the King of Kings, says Paltu. He rules with glory the 3 worlds. Such indeed is the man of true valour. Contentment. A seeker who treads the spiritual path has to live in the Lord's will. Whatever the Lord gives, he should accept cheerfully. Contentment has to be cultivated if a seeker wants success on the path. Paltu says in Part 2, Rector 40, "The elephant fills his stomach with contentment. The dog for a crumb wanders from place to place. The seeker should follow the manner of the python, who remains content with what comes his way. The lion gets his quarry and eats with ease. The jackal goes begging from door to door. The seeker, says Paltu, need do nothing except cultivate contentment, from which devotion springs." Slander not saints. It is a great sin to slander saints. Paltu, in the following Julna, observes that slander does not affect a saint, but it does degrade the slanderer, who has to then take birth in one of the lower forms of life in the cycle of transmigration. The Wheel of 84 refers to this cycle. Traditionally, there are said to be 84 luck, 8,400,000 categories of life. Paltu says in Part 2, Julna 61, "Slander not saints, for no good can come of it. Having gone through the Wheel of 84, the slanderer will go on suffering birth and death. Abuse matters little to saints, but the slanderer will burn in his own sins. He who tries to blacken the name of a saint, O Paltu, will only blacken his own." Dance with abandon. The true disciple should work for his salvation with complete indifference to public opinion. He should not be bothered by the criticism and taunts of others. With full devotion, he should serve his master and should not hesitate to do even menial service. Paltu says in Part 2, Rector 52, "Dance with abandon, cast off your veil. Let the whole world watch your free dance. Your aim is to please the Lord. Hide not your face with a false sense of shame. Cast all your sham modesty to the winds. With whom do you feel shy? With your husband? Who can stop you from dancing to your own heart? You are fortunate, says Paltu, to have won his love. Sleep now in bliss on the bridal bed with your Lord." The name is ineffable. In this aral, Paltu indicates the indescribable nature of the name. It is unspoken and unwritten and cannot be expressed in any language. Paltu says that only saints know what the name is. Paltu says in Part 2, Aral 2, "To the one who longs for the name, let him know that it is nameless. It cannot be written, it cannot be read. It transcends symbols and words. If you ask about its form, it is formless. Like the wind, elusive and unseen. Indeed, it is only the saints, O Paltu, who behold it with the eye of the heart." Divine intoxication. Paltu, in this kundli, describes the attitude of the spiritual seeker who is deeply in love with his master. Such a devotee pays no heed to criticism and remains unaffected by public disapproval of his conduct. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 68, "I am lost in the love of my beloved, and people call me mad. People call me mad. Whose mouth can I shut? In house after house I am abused. Unconcerned, I wander, intoxicated with his name. Casting off my veil, I dance to the drumbeat of enlightenment. Swiftly I climb the rope dancer's pole in the middle of the town. Seeing me thus, the people are vexed, yet their discomfort leaves me untouched. I am drunk with the love of my master and always do my best to please him. The true saint alone, O Paltu, knows the realms of which I speak. I am lost in the love of my beloved, and people call me mad. The path of love. Great are the hardships the lover has to encounter. In order to enter the path of love, says Paltu, the lover has to sacrifice his head. That is, he has to surrender himself completely to the beloved. In the Indian context, by referring to the home of one's aunt, mother's sister, Paltu is creating a contrasting image of informal and indulgent hospitality. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 71, "This is the abode of love, not the home of your aunt. It is not the home of your aunt. Only with severed head can you gain admittance. Even if he has to part with his hands and feet, the lover cannot be kept in check. The more grievous his wounds, the faster his speed to the beloved's home. The warrior goes to the battlefield and does not return alive. It is only those of great valour, O Paltu, who set foot in the realm of love. This is the abode of love, not the home of your aunt." Saints are tender of heart. Paltu in this beautiful Kundli speaks of the qualities of saints. They are the qualities at the human level that make them a friend without parallel. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 24, "Soft and tender are saints. No one else in the world is like them. There is no one else like them. They are kind and merciful to all. Foe and friend are alike to them, and alike are bad luck and good fortune. They are as tender as flowers. Not even in a dream do they see others' faults. They ever wish well to others, for they savour the wine of divine love. Affable to all, with a gentle smile, soft and sweet of speech are they. Cheerful whatever happens, they emanate coolness. In every glance they radiate compassion. Whatever one might say to them, O Paltu, they are not in the least perturbed. Soft and tender are saints. No one else in the world is like them." Storming the fortress of the body. Paltu describes the radical change that takes place in a disciple after he has vanquished the evil forces within himself. These forces are referred to here as the 5 bandits, meaning the 5 passions: lust, anger, greed, attachment, and egotism. They can be overcome only with the help of the Master. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 258, "Through the grace of my Master, I have captured the 5 bandits. I have captured the 5 bandits, and peace now reigns in the town. The 3 attributes have been expelled. In their place, devotion resides. Greed and attachment have been seized and beheaded. Desire and egotism have been mortally wounded. Wickedness has been expelled with the whip of piety. The valiant soldier saint has stormed the fortress of his body. I have established law and order, O Paltu, and the news has spread in the town. Through the grace of my Master, I have captured the 5 bandits." The arrows of wisdom. Paltu gives an account of the war that saints wage against the forces of delusion. The 5 refers to the 5 elements, the 25 to the prakruti, or tendencies of mind and matter. The 9 gates are the 9 openings of the body. To scale these means to withdraw the attention from the body and concentrate it inwards at the eye centre. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 100, "Saints storm the battlefield armed with the arrows of wisdom. Armed with the arrows of wisdom, they vanquish the forces of ignorance. The 5 and the 25 they slay. They set the fortress on fire, They kill lust and anger, and the mind they take prisoner. The 9 gates they scale, and set their banner at the 10th. They reach the eternal throne, where the unstruck drum resounds. When the master dies the soul in the name, the mind gives up its fight. Be ready to die, O Paltu. Shoot with the bow of your soul. Saints storm the battlefield, armed with the arrows of wisdom. Water and stone. It is no use looking for God in holy places, or trying to find him by idol worship, or by wearing saffron robes. God in human form serves as a reminder that though we fail to see him, God is there within everyone, rich and poor, king and beggar. Paltu says, stop looking outside yourself. Surrender in all humility to a perfect master and learn from him how to realise the Lord within. With hands folded denotes an attitude of humility and supplication before the master. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 268, give up the worship of water and stone, my friend, and worship the spirit that lives within the body. Worship the spirit within the body that both eats and speaks. By putting a foot on its chest, the idol is fashioned from stone. Then it is bathed with pomp and ceremony and offered tasty food to eat, while God, in human form, passes hungry by your door. You have renounced the world and wear the saffron robes of a monk, but the meaning of true devotion you do not know. Rare is the soul who knows it. Go with folded hands to a perfect saint and serve him with devotion. Give up the worship of water and stone, my friend, and worship the spirit that lives within the body. Saints and the world. The greatness of saints, ironically enough, is made all the more apparent by the criticism and ridicule they receive from worldly people. Once these same people appreciate their greatness, however, they too are transformed by the saint's dazzling brilliance. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 198, saints are a storehouse of jewels, but the key is held by their critics. The key is with their critics, and they miss no chance to use it. Saints thus acquire celebrity and manifest the eminence of the Lord's name. As flint produces sparks on stones, so the critic sparks their brilliance. From the eminence of saints, in turn, emanates the glory and majesty of God. Seeing this spark, people are dazzled. Throughout the world they are held in awe. Thus, through the power of the critic, hidden treasures are revealed. The concealing veil is lifted, O Paltu, and now all bow down to the saints. Saints are a storehouse of jewels, but the key is held by their critics. The futility of external observances. In this Kundli, Paltu strongly denounces all forms of external observances. He impresses upon the seeker the need to look for the Lord within himself. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 209, leaving delicious fruits at home, you go in search of wild berries. You go in search of wild berries, mistaking them for luscious fruit. You bathe in holy waters and worship in sentient idols. Leaving behind the living Lord, you pursue lifeless stones. The husband will not come near when the wife is chasing others. The dog tastes his own blood and thinks that it comes from the bone. The seeker remains in delusion, and truth remains unknown. The fruit, says Paltu, is right before you, but you make no effort to eat it. Leaving delicious fruits at home, you go in search of wild berries. The way is within. The Lord resides within the human body, and it is here that one should seek him. Paltu denounces pilgrimages, fasts, charities, and all external observances, saying that they are of no avail in the search for the Lord. Threading the needle with one's soul refers to the process, in meditation, of attaching oneself to the word within, so that the consciousness is raised by the word. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 227, "Why do you go out to seek him? He is shining within each house. He is shining within each house. I have left all pilgrimages, fasts, and charities. Giving up the worship of water and stone, I have risen and merged within myself. Turning my back on lust and anger, I have attained everlasting bliss. Setting fire to avarice and attachment, I have sundered the bonds of karma. I have defeated hunger and thirst and renounced all worldly desire. Having merged myself in the word within, as through a needle I have threaded my soul. Keep to the path firmly, O Paltu. Do not leave the company of saints. Why do you go out to seek him? He is shining within each house." Churn the vital elements. In this kundli, Paltu uses the imagery of traditional yogic practices to explain the inner yoga of the word. Only one who practices the inner way, says Paltu, can be called a true yogi. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 224, "He who churns the vital elements within uncovers the mine of the word. He uncovers the mine of the word within and is connected with the divine. The soul thus gets awakened, and wondrous powers are manifest. With attention fixed on the Lord at the Sahaj stage, he controls his mind with wisdom. He neither collects nor renounces the things of the world. His concern is the search within his body. He smears himself with the ashes of love and takes his seat on the deerskin of tranquillity. With the mark of enlightenment adorning his forehead, he tells the beads of the unutterable word. This is the true yogi, O Paltu. He churns the vital elements within and uncovers the mine of the word." The Lord's Grocer. Paltu was a grocer by profession. In this poem he uses the metaphor of the grocer's shop to convey the spiritual wealth he now dispenses after attaining God-realization. Paltu says in Part 3, Shabad 81, "Who will sell my groceries now? Say, who will sell my groceries? My goods are displayed in Trikuti's shop, and Sukhmanar is the place where I sit. In Daswandwar is my warehouse where the lord of the region dwells. Ida and Pingala are the two pans of the balance in which I weigh my goods. The shining flame of my soul is the pan's supporting string. The melody emanating from the word is the beam which holds the balance. In this balance I weigh my groceries, countless heaps of pearls. The sun and the moon are my watchmen, keeping guard on this precious store. The bliss of Turiya is my merchandise, which I weigh and dispense. Such is the eminence I have acquired, such is the power I wield. Through my Master's grace, I have become a grocer in the marketplace of the Lord. In Paltu's home rings an unceasing melody, and his trade grows more and more." Footnote: Trikuti, second inner region from where all lower regions are ruled. Sukhmanar, the inner passage or route by which the soul current travels to higher regions, with the current Ida on the left and Pingla on the right. Daswandwar, third inner region, threshold of the spiritual regions. Sun and moon, the inner light the soul encounters as it travels from the physical to the spiritual regions. Turiya, state of superconsciousness. End footnote. The saint reigns supreme. The saint has sovereign power over both the material and spiritual worlds. In the temporal world, even kings pay homage to him, while at the same time the gates of the spiritual world are always open to him. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 138, "The saint reigns supreme over the worlds both temporal and spiritual. Reigning over the temporal and spiritual worlds, he keeps both content. Not only are his worldly needs fulfilled, he also enjoys the divine melody within. Kings and monarchs stand in his court with folded hands. His word serves as law, and his command is readily obeyed. With the forces of understanding, he demolishes the bastions of falsehood. Without his asking, treasures of both the worlds are his. He asks for nothing except the wealth of contentment. Such is the sovereign power of the saint, O Paltu, that the Lord himself stands at his command. The saint reigns supreme over the worlds both temporal and spiritual." The saints come as redeemers. The world would be immersed in the darkness of ignorance without the light of knowledge brought by the saints. They come as the messengers of God to redeem the world through the gift of the name. Paltu says in Part 2, Recta 16, "The saints come down to earth and reveal themselves. They give the gift of the name and redeem the world. None know how to worship the Lord. Therefore the saints take birth among us. Through God's name, they establish order. They vanquish death and his attendant powers." Says Paltu the slave, "All were drowning. The saints took them by the hand and pulled them to safety." This other Paltu. Paltu epitomizes the humility and sense of humour that are the hallmarks of the saints. In this kundli he takes the idea of divine grace to an extreme, saying that he did not deserve to receive the wealth of the name. God clearly made a mistake. Paltu says in Part 1, Kundli 164, "There used to be another Paltu. I was given the gift of devotion because they thought I was he. I caught the name he was supposed to get. Paltu's devotion was given to me. I found it lying there. Someone had dropped this incredible wealth. I picked it up casually, closed my hands over it, hid it away. It was fated otherwise, but there was a confusion in the karmic account. No one knew but me. Eventually they found out. They thought about it, but didn't take it back. That's the way of the rich. If they make a mistake, they can afford to let it go. I am a no-good. God clearly made a mistake. There was this other Paltu, and he thought I was he." End of St. Paltu, His Life and Teachings, by Isaac A. Ezekiel. Print copyright 1978 and 2009, and audio recording copyright 2025. Radha Soami Satsang Beas, all rights reserved.